Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and now are ready to start another fresh week with a lot of enthusiasm. So yes, on last reading on Friday, we were reading about how Lord Brahma was praising Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and he was saying some really nice prayers which were absolutely wonderful and useful for all the mankind. And he was quite remorseful in a way, that how he tried to understand Lord Krishna as something insignificant. So let's begin from there onwards. In this way, Brahma, the master of this universe, after offering humble and respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and circumambulating him 3 times, was ready to return to his abode known as Brahmaloka. By his gesture, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave him permission to return. As soon as Brahma left, Lord Krishna immediately returned to the bank of the Yamuna and rejoined his calves and cowherd boyfriends Gopas, who were situated just as they had been on the very day they had vanished. We know that Lord Brahma had done all that by now. Krishna had left his friends on the bank of Yamuna while they were engaged in lunch, and although he returned exactly 1 year later, the cowherd boys thought that he had returned within a second. That is the way Krishna's different energies act. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna himself is residing in everyone's heart as Paramatma, and he causes both remembrance and forgetfulness. All living entities are controlled by the supreme energy of the Lord, and sometimes they remember and sometimes they forget their constitutional position. His friends, being controlled in such a way, could not understand that for 1 whole year they were absent from the Yamuna's bank and were under the spell of Brahma's illusion. When Krishna appeared before the boys, they thought, "Krishna has returned within a minute." They began to laugh, thinking that Krishna was not willing to leave their lunchtime company. They were very jubilant and invited him. "Dear friend Krishna, you have come back so quickly. All right, we have not as yet begun our lunch, not even taken 1 morsel of food. So please come and join us and let us eat together." Krishna smiled and accepted their invitation, and he began to enjoy the lunchtime company of his friends. While eating, Krishna was thinking, "These boys believe that I have come back within a second, but they do not know that for the last year I have been involved with the mystic activities of Lord Brahma." After finishing their lunch, Krishna and his friends and calves began to return to their Vrajbhumi homes. While passing, they enjoyed seeing the dead carcass of Aghasur in the shape of a gigantic serpent, the demon Krishna had killed earlier on. When Krishna returned home to Vrajbhumi, he was seen by all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He was wearing a peacock feather in his helmet, which was also decorated with forest flowers. He was wearing a peacock feather in his helmet, decorated with the forest flowers. Krishna was also garlanded with flowers and painted with different colored minerals and collected from the caves of Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is always famous for supplying natural red oxides, and Krishna and his friends painted their bodies with them. Each of them had a bugle made of buffalo horn and a stick and a flute, and each called his respective calves by their particular names. The cowherd boys were so proud of Krishna's wonderful activities that while entering the village, they all sang his glories. All the gopis in Vrindavan saw beautiful Krishna entering the village. The boys composed nice songs describing how they were saved from being swallowed by the great serpent and how the serpent was killed. Some describe Krishna as the son of Yashoda and others as the son of Nand Maharaj. He is also so wonderful that he saved us from the clutches of the great serpent and killed him, they said. But little did they know that 1 year had passed since the killing of Aghasur the demon. In this regard, Maharaj Parikshit, remember the grandson of Arjun, asked Shukadev Goswami how the inhabitants of Vrindavan suddenly developed so much love for Krishna. Although Krishna was not a member of any of their families, Maharaj Parikshit inquired, during the absence of the original cowherd boys, when Krishna expanded himself, why is it that the boys' parents became more loving towards him than their own sons? Also, why did the cows become so loving towards the calves more than toward their own calves? Shukadev Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that every living entity is actually most attached to his own self. Outward paraphernalia such as home, family, friends, country, society, wealth, opulence and reputation are all only secondary in pleasing the living entity. They please only because they bring pleasure to the self. For this reason, one is self-centered and is attached to his body and self more than he is to his relatives like wife, children, and friends. Now, that is interesting. If there is some immediate danger to one's own person, he first of all takes care of himself, then others. That is natural. That means he loves his own self more than anything else. The next important object of affection after his own self is his material body. A person who has no information of the spirit soul is very much attached to his material body. So much so that even in old age he wants to preserve the body in so many artificial ways, thinking that his old and broken body can be saved. Everyone is working hard day and night to give pleasure to his own self, under either the bodily or spiritual concept of life. We are attached to material possessions because they give pleasure to the senses or to the body. The attachment to the body is there only because I, the spirit soul, is within the body. Similarly, when one is further advanced, he knows that the spirit soul is pleasing because it is part and parcel of Krishna. Ultimately, it is Krishna who is pleasing and all attractive. He is the super soul of everything, and in order to give us this information, Krishna descends and tells us that all attractive center is himself, he himself. Without being an expansion of Krishna, nothing can be attractive. Whatever is attractive within the cosmic manifestation is due to Krishna. Krishna is therefore the reservoir of all pleasure. The active principle of everything is Krishna, and highly elevated transcendentalists see everything in connection with him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a Mahabhagavat or highly advanced devotee sees Krishna as active principle in all moving and non-moving living entities. Therefore, he sees everything within this cosmic manifestation in relation to Krishna. For the fortunate person who has taken shelter of Krishna as everything, liberation is already there. He is no longer in the material world. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Whoever is engaged in the devotional service of Krishna is already on the Brahma Bhuta or spiritual platform. The very name is piety and liberation. Anyone who takes shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna enters the boat for crossing over the ocean of nations. For him, this vast expansion of the material manifestation becomes as insignificant as the water in the calf's hoof print. Krishna is the shelter of all great souls, and he is also the shelter of material worlds. For one who is on the platform of Krishna consciousness, Vaikuntha or the spiritual world is not far away. He does not live within the material world where there is danger at every step. In this way, Krishna consciousness was fully explained by Shukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. Shukadev Goswami even recited to the king the statements and prayers of Lord Brahma. These descriptions of Lord Krishna's pastimes with his cowherd boys, his eating with them on the bank of Yamuna, and Lord Brahma's prayers unto him are all transcendental subject matters. Anyone who hears, recites, or chants them surely gets all his spiritual desires fulfilled. Thus Krishna's childhood pastimes, his sporting with Balaram, and the cowherd boys in Vrindavan were described. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 14th chapter of Krishna, prayers offered by Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna. Chapter 15, the killing of Dhenukasur. Thus Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balaram, passed the childhood age known as Komar and stepped into the age of Poganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows in the pasturing grounds. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their lotus footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flowers, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forests were as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes with water that could relieve one of all fatigue. Sweet-smelling breezes blew everywhere, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with his friends and Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, desired to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruit and fresh twigs, bending down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balaram as follows: "My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees full with fruits and flowers have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held them personal point of view in their past lives, they have been put into this stationary condition of life. But now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they are praying for further advancement in spiritual life through your personal association. Generally, living entities in the mode of darkness obtain the bodies of trees. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. I think the drones that are buzzing all around, you must have been your devotees in past lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting at every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship, and they are disguising themselves in the form of drones because they are unable to give up your company even for a moment. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior is just like that of gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos who are residing in the forest are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries because they consider that your appearance in their home is so auspicious. These cuckoos are quails. Even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability, as is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate because the footprints of your lotus feet are marking its body." So Krishna is glorifying Lord Balaram after coming to the forest as a young little boy, now acting as a cowherd boy with the rest of the gopas, and we will see the beginning of new leelas unfolding in front of us as we read along. So tomorrow we shall continue from here, and I wish you all a very blissful day ahead. Please keep chanting and stay happy. Hare Krishna.